So today is a first. Every single month, I am going to bring somebody that I know to the socials for you to meet. And I'm so excited to kick off this session, this series with my incredible friend, the awesome, the uber talented Dr. Amy Silver. She's just got decades of experience of helping people have more courage, overcome fear, face those difficult conversations, ultimately unlock all that possibility, all those dreams that they've got, and go and fulfill them. Because more often than not, every single person I speak to, whether they be a business leader, whether they've got a side hustle, whether they be a future thought leader, whether they be somebody stepping up in their business or their careers, the thing that is stopping them is fear, right? I know it stopped me over my career, so I'm super excited to hear from Amy and get some tips to share with you. She's a little bit smart. She's got a doctorate in clinical psychology, a master's in forensic psychiatry, a master's in performance as well, and a bachelor with honors in psychology. Yeah, she's one of those that's got lots of letters after a name, which is pretty awesome. She's also writes regularly. She was on TV yesterday. She's the author of numerous books, and her latest book is called The Loudest Guest, and this is all about fear. So enough from me. Let's get going. Oh, if you have comments, just comment away. If you've got any questions, just start your question with a Q so I can go through this feed. Hey, big high five to Jade Lee. Welcome, Marie McPherson. It's awesome to see you here. Dr. Amy Silver, the pressure is on. Are you feeling the fear right now?
I am. I feel the fear all the time. The fear doesn't go away.
Yeah, you see, there's the thing, right? That's the thing. We feel the fear all the time. Amy, before we get into some of these nuts and bolts, I'm just curious a little bit about your backstory. And the big curiosity that I've got is where did your passion for all things overcoming fear, becoming more courageous, where did that come from? Can you remember a moment where you went, this is my thing. This is what I've been put on this planet to do?
I know that I was always really curious about people, and so that was what led me into psychology, I reckon. Was just nosiness. Why do people behave in the way that they do? And then in therapy, you're trying to help people move from somewhere that they're not particularly happy to a better place, and there's so much there, about how to do that. But it is really trapped in that world. And I think it was a point where I knew that I wanted to face into one of my fears, which was I'd done quite well in psychology. I'd reached quite a senior position. I was working at Oxford Uni and doing really amazing work, having opportunities to work with incredible colleagues. And I was kind of sensing that there was a little bit more to me in terms of I wanted to learn how to play again, because psychology and therapy is quite serious. It's quite introspective and quiet. And I really wanted to learn to play again. And I kind of was questioning myself about what that could look like. And there was this really clear academic and professional role for me in psychology. I knew what the roles were. I was kind of on the way to being a professor. And I guess I had this moment where I just thought, well, what if I just walked away from it? What would I do? What could I do? Who could I be? If I hadn't have chosen that path, what would I do? And when I was at school, I was really into drama and acting, and I just sort of thought, oh, well, would I pursue learning about acting more? So I had this fear about what I'd lose if I walked away from psychology, what others would think of me, particularly my family, for some bizarre reason, not that they would judge me, but just, I'd put in so much time and effort and commitment into that world, which was quite serious, and there was quite a lot of pride in it. And what if I walked away and said I wanted to go and do acting? And could I do that at 30 or whatever I was? And so, and there was that moment I just thought, hang on a minute, this is what I do for a living, is I help people grow. I help people move from here to here. They don't want to be here, they want to be there. And I know the tools. Why am I not using them on me? And so that was when I started kind of questioning this whole idea about, well, why are we not questioning how we make decisions, how we move forward, how we run our lives, and I guess how much control we give over to fear. It's a really important question, I think, for us to examine so that we can, get further in our lives. So I think that was probably the time that I.
Oh, goodness. As you're saying that, I reckon you're not the only one that has hit that point in their life where they're going, can I change this?
Yeah.
I work with a lot of clients who are in the place in their career and they're questioning, what's next? Is this really what I want to do? But I've spent 20 years building my career in this way. Or what would my parents think? What would my colleagues think? And that fear that you talk about, I remember feeling that about 10 years ago, actually, because as you know, I was, your corporate chick, very traditional, of leaving uni, starting in a graduate training job, working my way up that ladder, constantly striving, constantly proving. And 10 years ago, I chucked it all in. I left that corporate career to essentially reinvent myself. And I can remember that feeling of, oh my God, am I throwing it all away? And oh my God, what are people going to think? Oh my God, can people, can I do this? So I think it's really real. And I reckon there will be a lot of people listening to this that feel the same. So there's a wonderful quote in your book, Amy. You say, good things happen when we use fear rather than fear controlling us. So good things happen when we use fear rather than fear controlling us. Can you tell me a little bit more about, what that actually means?
So to me, there's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is a wonderful emotion. It's part of who we are. It's part of why we survive and we don't go and do stupid things. And it gives us a sense of achievement on the other side of fear. So it's a wonderful emotion. When we allow fear, and we are allowing it to take over and tell us what to do, we can move further away from our goals because we're listening to what fear wants for us. And generally what fear wants to do is protect us, right? It's trying to keep us safe. But the way that it does that is by asking us to play small, to pull back. Don't do that. Don't risk this. Don't try and change there because you may have, it may push people away, or other people will judge you. Or it has this narrative that's basically asking you to either step back and avoid, or arc up and defend, and start protecting. And that flight or fight response that fear is using, if we're not aware of that, then it controls us, right? And we just do those things. We arc up or we avoid, and we don't even actually know that there was a choice point there. If we can tune into what that choice point is, then we've got control, and we can say, well, do I want to listen to that fear? Is that fear actually helpful to me? Because my goal is pretty long term, but fear's goal is really short term. So do I want to move into a position where I can evaluate what fear says so that I can use it and kind of go, yeah, that's really motivating. Fear is a great motivator. And so, if I can tune into what the positives of that is without having to do what fear wants me to do, then I choose. And I choose, well, no, now I don't want to listen to fear. I want to be in control. Or I choose, okay, I'm going to listen to fear and I'm going to avoid or attack. But it's my choice, not fear's. And so when we are in a position of control, we can use fear and use it wisely, knowing that it's got good stuff and it's got bad habits, and we can keep pushing forward towards our goals.
I love that whole concept, Amy, that you talk about around switching our relationship with fear. Because I reckon, I don't know, in your work, do you see that actually the majority of us have almost a negative relationship with fear, in that the fear is stopping us from playing that bigger game. It's stopping us from taking that risk. It's stopping us from making that investment. It's stopping us from going online and doing a live stream for the very first time with a guest online. The fear is the thing that if we choose to listen to it, what you're saying is the short-term thing is it wins. It wins because it stops you and it keeps you safe. And our challenge as individuals is to own that long-term game. We had a great question that was sent to me yesterday, which I think links to this. Anna in Melbourne asked me to ask you, how do you know it's fear and not the inner critic? Or is it the same thing that's at play to essentially force you to play a small game?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. The inner critic is, a colloquial term that we all really understand, and it is that narrative that kind of talks to us in quite a critical way. I think it's probably most, in terms of the emotions, it's probably most closely linked to shame rather than fear. And the analogy that I have, or the image that I have, is that our emotions are like guests at our party, right? And we're the host of our party, but any of our guests can sort of start to take control of the party, tell us what to do. And if fear is there, which, as you said, it's there for most of us most of the time, we just don't actually know. Shame is almost like a really kind of close companion, and they sort of travel in a pack together. Like, this is how I visualize quite well. So this is in my head. I've got
my head's full. I literally got so many of these people in my head. It's like, can you please just shut up?
So I've got shame is pretty closely sort of following fear around, going, hey, has fear got her? Because if fear's got her, I'm going to come straight in with some shame now. So it's like, and the same for guilt. Guilt is another one. So I feel like the internal critic is definitely part of this. I think from a biological point of view, it is fear first, and then it's the habit of that internal dialogue that we have, and how much control we have over it. But I think, each of us will have our own way of dealing with these different guests, and the solution to find out, well, who's actually in control here, I think, is to do some writing about it. Because if we actually, if we take a piece of paper and we go, okay, shame, what have you got to say about this situation? And just let shame kind of give you all their stuff. And then you go to fear, and fear, what have you got to say about all this? And you get closer to your emotions by understanding how they're talking to you. And then you can separate and kind of work out, well, who's actually in charge here? Because I am the host of my own party, and I don't want any of my guests to take control, even if they're being really loud. So, that's my thing.
And I get it's obvious, but I want to hear from your opinion. So when we become the host of our own party, and when through doing that, we control what our guests are saying and therefore their impact on our actions and our behavior, when we become that host, what is the possibility?
To me, it's choosing rather than, and it's that whole, we don't want to react, we want to respond, right? We want to be really present in our lives so that we are making good decisions based on what we want, not what our brain is kind of habitually sort of telling us. So to me, it's about being consciously choosing our direction rather than sort of automatically finding ourselves in situations. And when we do find ourselves in situations that don't match what we want, we start blaming people, we start blaming ourselves, feeling small, feeling irritated with ourselves. It kind of just brings on a whole other host of set of emotions that we don't actually need to carry. We start fearing fear itself. And, the more we get into our habit, whether it's the arcing up or the avoiding, the more we get into that, the more it shapes our lives, and we don't even feel and see it. It just is controlling our lives. And then we start to label ourselves with personalities. I'm shy, I'm reserved, and it's sort of, well, really, or is that just a really strong story that your fear has been narrating for you, and you've believed it, and now you're stuck with it because you don't feel that you've got choice?
And we've got a great comment here from Karen. I definitely relinquish invitations to the negative nanny when they pop up. Thanks, Karen. And I've been seeing Karen actually posting more and more videos over the last 12 months. So I know she's been facing her fears. And I think Jade earlier said, I love that comment about my goal is long term and fear's goal is short term. So true. So people who are listening in, if you've got any questions, just post away whilst we've got Amy here. Remember, this is all about connecting and me introducing you to some awesome people I know. And the best way to connect is to ask an awesome question, because then Dr. Amy Silver will remember you and you can connect offline. Now, whilst you're all thinking and percolating, there's another bit in your book, which again just made me giggle, Amy. You talk about the 4 relationships we can have with fear, and you describe them as fear is the controller, the director, the advisor, and the commentator. Yeah, this part is pretty busy, right? Can you just briefly explain those 4 different relationships or characters that are at play? And people that are listening, I'm curious, as you're listening to Amy share this, stick in the comments which ones are actually at play for you. Let's see what's going on out there when it comes to our relationship with fear. Go for it, Amy.
Look, I think what you are demonstrating beautifully right now in the moment is that fear is commentating for you, right? It is talking away about the things that might go wrong, the technology that might break down, the impact on people. It's narrating, and you're being really clear with us, explaining that that's happening. Now, that to me allows you to move forward with a playful attitude, and it allows you to kind of use us and use the space, your connections, to be vulnerable enough to keep you safe while you're doing it. And it's a playful sort of, it's happening, the conversation is there, and you're just aware of it, but moving forward in a playful way. So when it's commentating, I think that's the best position for it to be in. Obviously, if it's a little bit more in control, it's directing us and it's saying, over prepare, send messages to this person. It's getting distracted on your phone because you're worried about something. It's sort of telling you what to do, and that all kind of gets in the way and sort of makes it a little bit more mushy in terms of you being able to move forward, because you're distracted by this direction. It's like having a director in a movie kind of going, stand there, do this, and a director may be really helpful, but it may also kind of make you a little bit self-conscious. At the other extreme, when we are, and I think these
just on that director thing, you tell the analogy in your book of the best directors allow the artist, the actor, to put their own feel on the character. And in my head, as I'm reading that, I'm going, yeah, I reckon that's, when you think about the artistry, the craft of people like a Nicole Kidman or whoever your favorite actor is, and you can see them entering into this character, right? And then the flip side of it, you go, when it's on its worst behavior, it's controlling you. And I reckon again, and I remember as an employee, when I've constantly been, I think we probably call it micromanaged. When you're micromanaged, there isn't enough of space for you to actually bring out yourself, and you actually your confidence gets eaten away. And I think that's probably, that whole analogy around the director is awesome. So sorry to jump in there.
I think that's right. I think it's when we've all had direction, and when you get told, at that point it would be really good to sort of, do this, and you see it in a meeting, but you see it and you kind of go, they're doing that because they're being told that by some voice that they need to look like they're questioning or listening, but actually they're not listening. They're distracted by the noise of their fear voice. So I've got quite in tune with spotting fear. There was somebody this morning who was talking about people behaving badly online and sort of trolling, and to me, when I look at somebody trolling, I think it's fear. It's their fear, right? They're arcing up because they're in fear. because you've said something that threatens something that they believe. And so I tend to now run everybody's behavior through whether the fear is just kind of there and commentating and you're really comfortable with it and you can own it and be vulnerable. And to me, back to your world, that's when we really connect, is when there's that openness, when we start to be directed by fear, or worse, controlled. We are putting our mask on, we're pretending when actually we don't believe ourselves, and it all gets very confusing. And when you're connecting with someone or trying to talk to them, you kind of like, where are they? Because you don't know who you're talking to. Are you talking to their fear voice, or are you talking to them? How in control of their fear voice are they? So I think it's a really beautiful thing to be conscious of. It obviously it helps us be really compassionate to people's behaviors, because if they are arcing up, or if they are avoiding, it's because they are being controlled by their fear voice, and they probably don't even know. And so to me, it helps us kind of really connect, because I can sort of see that fear voice taking over for them. And it's a powerful voice.
So there's a couple of questions here, but before we get there, did we cover off all four? We did control, you did director.
Yeah,
did you do advisor and commentator?
Yeah, so we really want the commentator role. We just want to be aware of this scale. And of course, we all have those different relationships with fear in different situations. I have a very dominating fear voice in certain situations, and it completely controls me. And in other situations, it's just merely commentating. So I think it's situational. It's about really just tuning in. Where am I at right now with my fear voice? What is it doing? Is it telling me stuff? Is it commanding me to do stuff? Do I know it's even present? Am I comfortable with it? So it's a question to self, really, in any situation, is how am I doing with fear right now in this situation? How is it talking to me?
I love that. So fear can either be controlling, directing, advising, or commentating. I'm going to pull up these couple of questions. First of all, from Elaine. Welcome, Elaine. Thank you for facing any fear you might have had, for publicly asking a question. So Elaine's asking, how can we silence the fear voice? And then she's also said, I'm looking forward to reading your book. Absolutely, Elaine. Mine has got so many cornered pages and highlighted bits. It's a goodie. In fact, you know what, Elaine? I have got a copy here. If you privately message me your address, see what we're doing? We're connecting. I will send you a copy of that book. So private message me your address, and I'm going to send you a copy of Dr. Amy Silver's book. So, Amy, how can we silence the fear voice?
Okay, so here's my big tip, is that we don't actually necessarily want to silence it. What we want to do, we don't want to be fearless. I don't believe that we want to be fearless. It's a good emotion to have. It's a guiding emotion. We can use it. It can serve us really well. We just want to have a good enough relationship with it that it doesn't rugby tackle us to the floor when we don't want it. So we want to be able to turn towards it, to welcome it, not to silence it, not to muffle it. Because what happens is, again, in my analogy, in my little visualization of my party, if I kind of sit on it on the couch and kind of try and put my hands over its mouth, well, at some point it's going to get pretty strong, and it may call forward some other friends, and it's going to have a good old go at me somewhere that I don't really want it to show up. So I don't want that relationship with fear. I don't want to silence it. I just don't want to care so much about it, what it's telling me to do. I don't want to be controlled by it. So I have this really weird thing where if I have a fear, which I have many, I have lots of physical fears that I'm very happy living with. I do not have any ambitions to jump out of planes or anything like that. I'm very happy and very comfortable with those fears, and they will stay with me for a very long time. But when I have a fear that I'm suddenly kind of consumed with, and my fear voice is so dominating, and it's telling me what to do, and it's making me double guess myself, and it's really shouting and telling me to pull back, I've got this really weird thing where I go, come on, let's go, give it to me. What's your worst? And it will say something like, you're going to make a total fool of yourself. Everybody's going to look at you, you're going to collapse, you're going to die, blah, blah, blah. It's going to just go for all this drama. And I just want to go, okay, I hear the drama. what's the message? What are you actually saying? What's the clear message? Because I don't want to respond to the drama. I just want to hear what's the risk so that I can decide whether I'm prepared to take that risk or not. So the first thing is to cut back on allowing the fear's drama to be controlling of you. So you want to hear the message, but not the drama. And then I've got this weird thing that I do, and I only thought about it recently, but if I am walking into a feared scenario, I will try and make the feared thing happen faster. So
can you give us an example?
So I was thinking about when I first met you. Not that you were a feared. Not that you were a feared.
I'm not that scary.
No, but you
were I have been told. I have been told. I used to when I first started. Yeah, when I first started work in the UK, I had this young graduate working for me who was so tall. He was really tall. And he was the son of the chief commissioner of police, right? Like his dad was very important in the UK. Anyway, I reckon about 6 months after he'd been working with me as a graduate, we were out having a drink and socializing. And he said to the person that's now my husband, Jason, he said, "Oh my God, I was so scared of your wife when I first started working. In fact, she scares me. She still scares me." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not that scary, am I?" Anyway, I totally digress. Back to you.
Yeah, no, but it is funny. It is funny because you don't know how you're landing for other people. And that's another really important thing, is to kind of go, how am I triggering someone else's fear? And maybe we'll talk about that in the connection when we talk about connection. But when I first met you, it was in a room full of like 100 and something people who were just incredibly inspiring to me. And you were part of that set and you belonged. That's how I imagined the scenario, and I really admired you, and I was very impressed by everybody in that group. And on my first day in that group, I had honestly spent, I would say, no exaggeration, 2 weeks planning what I was going to wear for that, to arrive in that room, and debate. And my fear voice was screaming at me, "You don't belong. They're going to reject you. Well, who the hell do you think you are?" And I was just so consciously listening, lipstick, no lipstick, hair, this, that, and I was being completely directed in not a good way by my fear. And in the morning of the very first day, I was just about to leave the house, and I was completely as fear wanted me to be, projecting an image that I thought would be acceptable, prepared to, I just had everything. I had a nice shiny bag, the whole thing. And I was standing with brand new notebook and pen. And I was standing in the kitchen, and I was just like, okay, hang on a minute. What the hell is going on? Fear is totally in control here. It's rehearsing everything that I'm about to say to anybody who I don't even know. And this is really not going to go well. What are you worried about? What do you actually think is going to happen? So I didn't sit down, but I had a cup of coffee with my fear voice. And I was like, what is it that you think is going to happen here? Because we've got to sort this out. I can't walk in like a complete controlled person. I've got to know, what are you worried about? And the fear voice was that everyone's going to look at you. Everyone's going to say you don't belong. Everyone's going to know it's your first day and that you are not part of this group. I was like, great. Okay, awesome. I went and got a white T-shirt from my bedroom. I got one of my kids' texters, and I wrote on the front of the T-shirt, "It's my first day." And I put it over my nice shiny clothes, and I walked out of the house. And that is how I arrived in the room. And I was like, you want to play, Fear? You want to tell me what to do?
I love that. For it. I remember it too. I remember that moment.
And so I bring it on, and I go, come on then, let's go. Let's see if we can move past you, because, so what if everyone looks at me? So what if everyone notices my first day? Isn't that an awesome way to vulnerably say, help me, and to connect? And it was an amazing connecting piece, because people did connect with me and did support me and could see that I was vulnerable and reached out, and and me and my fear were fine. It was a scary day, and we did it.
We need to start a hashtag today. Bring it on. Maybe by the end of this session, whoever's listening, comment on what are you going to bring on today. I'm going to go right back because there was a lovely question from, here we go, Jade Lee. So I am watching the questions, Pete. Don't worry, I'll get around to you. And it takes you back to the beginning, Amy. You talked about writing down your emotions. And Jade's just asking, is this journaling or can you expand? Are there any specific techniques that you were referring to?
Look, I love journaling. I'm not really religious about journaling every day, but I do have a really close relationship with my emotions through writing. So it's not journaling as in this is what I think and this is what I feel. It's really what is fear got to say about this particular situation? How is fear present today? So I will take a piece of paper and write at the top of the page fear, and on the other side of the page I will write me. And we will have a conversation. In the book, we talk about a technique that's really well used in therapy, which is called the 2-chair technique, where you actually sort of externalize an internal conversation, and you'll put the two people or the two two sides of the conversation that you're having in your head in different chairs, and you ask the patient to literally switch chairs to play the different roles, and then you hear what that internal narrative is saying. And you have to say it, and once you hear it, you're like, geez, that's a bit heavy. I don't really need to be carrying that. Well, that's a bit mean. Or you can actually feel the weight of that narrative. So I play that game in writing. So I will use that as a technique, have an emotion at the top of the page and have me on the other one, and we'll have a conversation. I'll go from side to side. If I'm being really disciplined, I'll use different color pens so that I've got this kind of visual that this is a conversation that belongs to me inside my head, but I am the one that's in control here. We're going to have a good conversation. I'm going to understand what you want me to do. And I'm going to use you because I've got all these other emotions too. Like, turn the page. What does excitement say about this same scenario?
Nice.
And I can have a conversation with excitement and kind of go, okay, great. Got you now. Okay. What does joy say? And so I literally move my attention around those different emotions because they give me different guidance. And that commentating thing, I don't want fear to be so loud that I've tuned out of everybody else at the party. I want to bring people forward, bring people back, and I want to choose which message I want to listen to.
That's so good. And you
by myself then. I don't know whether I.
No, that was good. I mean, I think, Jade, does that answer your question? And I actually think that just you beautifully illustrated that with that example of having the conversation about that first day of walking into the room, getting clarity on what really was going on, and then action it. So that was just awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm just having a look at who's online. Michael Perry, a massive high five to you. I met Michael Perry here at Harvard a couple of years ago. A very good friend who we've connected very deeply in the last couple of years, a very good friend in the US. He's saying he finds it helpful to incorporate a little bit of humor. Which is really great. Some Facebook user, love to know who you are, that said this. Maybe put your name in the chat. What's coming across so strongly to me is that we need to engage in a dialogue. Okay. I love it. My driver in the back end is moving things and suddenly it disappeared. I can't see it now. What was it? We need to engage in a dialogue. Jason, with something. I'm trying to read it. We need to ask for your questions and then we can choose how to respond. Absolutely. People are saying, love that story. There's a great question. I'm going to come back to your question, Karen, late in a second. So please don't think I'm ignoring you. And Jay's doing an excellent, she's nodding her head to your response to her question. So that is awesome. My Dr. Michael Perry from the US. I want a question from you, Mike, because I know this is your space too. And I'm just going to do what I naturally do. This is Janine. You're seeing her in action. Dr. Mike Perry, my amazing friend that works in this space in the US. Please meet my other amazing friend, Dr. Amy Silver, who is based here in Australia. Please connect offline because I think together you could do some awesome stuff. And maybe Michael, Dr. Michael Perry, I'll get you online too. So let's make that happen. Now, let me just bring back, because there's so much awesome stuff in your head. I want to bring it back to.
You don't want to know what's going on in my head. There's a whole load of parties going on.
There's anxiety. So here's the thing, right? You talk about the party in our head, and you know, I'm passionate about this power of connection. How we've actually got to learn not only to connect with the brilliance that absolutely exists in ourselves, with those dreams, with those visions, with those goals that we have to play a bigger game, whatever bigger game is to you. I totally believe that everyone wants to become better tomorrow than they are today. They want to become a better business owner. They want to become better at their job. They want to become a better speaker. They want to become a better blogger. There's always a dream there. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us alive as beautiful, amazing human beings. At the same time, we cannot achieve that success on our own. And so this connection with other people is key. Now, in a lot of the work that I do, honestly, the stuff that comes back to me when I talk about connecting with other human beings, networking, asking people for help, getting curious about connecting with people who've been there before. I am constantly hearing, I'm worried about being judged. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. So it's all of the stuff that you're talking about. It's all of those lovely guests that maybe we don't want at our party. So what are your strategies? In your book, you talk about 6 strategies for controlling that fear. Are you able to sort of quickly bring our viewers, our listeners in on those 6 strategies so that they can follow that process? And then we'll come back to more questions, because I reckon when you hear these, it's going to fire out some more questions for you, those of you that are listening in.
Yeah, we've talked about some of them, so we will talk about them. I was just thinking when you were talking about about how fear gets in the way of us creating relationships at the the beginning bit of sort of opening up and being vulnerable, and it also prevents relationships getting deeper. Because it worries that we're going to get hurt, or we're going to get disappointed, or we're going to get rejected, and so it travels all the way through those relationships, or that people are going to take advantage of us. And I work with individuals, helping them be more courageous, but I also work with teams and whole cultures where the behaviors that have been set up around their conversations, about their connections, it's very protective. Protective through avoidance, which is, silos, nice little silos, or through arcing up, which is the sort of defensive stuff too. So I think it's just so crucial, as you say, to that whole connection spectrum. And really, if we don't have a good grip on how it's telling us what to do and where those choice points come, I think it would be, it's just, I'm just reiterating what you said. What an absolute shame and waste of all of our potential, because it becomes so trapped in our own itself. We don't know how to collectively build that intelligence together. So, it's criminal, really, isn't it? That it literally steals our potential.
It is. Anyway. And my kids, it's hilarious. But before we come back to your 6 strategies, my kids will say, so I absolutely believe that every single person that comes into my stratosphere has got a gift to give, and that there's a need to connect. So as people who know me know, I'm always curious. I get into conversation, and I've had to practice that because actually deep down, I'm a massive introvert. Deep down, I'd love to move through the world, secretly just getting on with my stuff. But that's limiting. That limited my career growth. And I've learned to change and control my relationship with fear. And the way I do it is I absolutely enter into connection and conversation. But my kids get so embarrassed because I will talk to, the checkout person in the supermarket, the Uber driver. I'll be walking the dog and I'll suddenly start having a chat. And my kids go, Mom, why do you talk to everyone? And for me, it's because I'm constantly curious about that person. And I have so many stories, and I've met so many interesting people that actually, to the bigger world are invisible. And it is purely because of this wonderful connection that we've had at some point that has gone deeper. And for me, it has been just get out of your own way, Janine. Just get out of your own way, Janine. Just get out of your own, Janine. This is nothing to do with you. This is that human being is amazing.
I just love that whole story because it shows that you still have those fears, right? If you wanted to access that perspective, it's not very far away. You know, if you wanted to pull back and use it in a different way, in a protective way, it's going to be there. You know, if you want to go on holiday and you don't want to talk to anyone, you can still do that because you've still got that capability.
Oh, I do. Jason goes, come on, let's go to the bar. I go, no, I'm all right. I'm happy to stay here. Thank you very much.
So you've still got them, right? And that's a successful relationship with your fear, and you have mastered it in that you have found a way that by pushing out instead of staying in and getting caught, you know, listening to your fear, your action has separated from what your fear voice wants, and it's allowed you therefore to experience all this good stuff, and it's allowed you to give your gifts to us, which is incredible. And so I think, what a shame if we don't do that and we don't explore how fear is trying to pull us back from a life that we could have.
So come on, what are the six
steps? We've kind of done them, but I'll lay them out.
Do you need me to like show you? I'm just going to put it in front of the camera. Get your phones ready. People that are watching, take a quick shot. Let me see if I can find. There they are. So you can follow along. Take a quick camera. Get your phones out. Screenshot.
You know what my fear voice said to me as soon as you said the 6 steps? I was like, the fear voice is going, you don't know them, do you? You don't know them.
I love it. IP in action. See?
All right, let's try. Come on, Fear.
Go for it.
All right. So the first step is really just recognition. So really having a close eye on yourself. And that might be journaling, as Jade said, but it may also be just noticing your choices and just analyzing what am I actually doing and why. So getting closer to your thoughts, your feelings. There's, a beautiful professor whose name Fear has just stolen from me and gone, you're going to remember the 6, but now you're not going to remember his name. It will come to me because he's very important to me. But anyway, he said, if you can name it, you can tame it. Somebody might know it in the chat. If you can name it, you can tame it. And that's the thing about emotions, is if they hide in this kind of nebulous overwhelm, we don't really have something to hang on to know what the next step is. Once we know it's fear, then we know we're onto a bit of a strategy now about, well, what do we do? So naming your emotions, recognizing what's going on for you, recognizing your behaviors and your habits, giving yourself some scenarios and recognizing what you do in it. So really getting close to understanding yourself and your fear, what your fear wants. So recognizing what those, how present fear is. To me, I have quite a clear male voice for my fear voice. And once I found that was a male voice and I was able to kind of go, oh my God, I think it's that person from my past. It was actually quite a freeing moment for me because I was like, what the hell am I doing carrying him around with me the whole time? Like, I never liked him, And so having that recognition of these characters that are choosing your actions is really important.
So you got step number 1, recognition. Then step number 2 is the self-compassion.
So self-compassion is my big thing. I think it's going to save the world. I think if we stand a little stronger in yes, Dan Siegel. Thank you, Jade. Dan Siegel, Professor Dan Siegel. If we stand a little stronger in self-compassion, what we can do is connect on our humanness. When we criticize ourselves and we criticize our emotions and we don't look after ourselves, we put ourselves in a really vulnerable position. So self-compassion is not just on a global scale of kind of eating, sleeping, moving, that sort of stuff, but it's also about feeling okay with these emotions. Because, for example, if we're not compassionate towards fear, we can bring in that inner critic, that shame, that guilt. And we want to be in a position where we can kind of welcome fear and kind of go, it's okay that you're here. It's a really natural thing that you're here. It's a human emotion. I'm okay with it. Let me try and soothe you. And I saw a little note somewhere that was about breathing techniques. And that's where that really comes in, is kind of going, gosh, my fear has been activated here. My body is in hyper alert. And it's going to make what I'm about to do difficult, or it's going to want me to pull back. What can I do to calm and nurture and soothe myself? And that's the self-compassion bits. How do I calm this system down? And those are really quick, easy, learnable grounding techniques that everybody should have up their sleeve. They're all on my website if you want them, but they're really just simple techniques that just keep you still, and you can reset your system when you get activated. So that's a self-compassion piece. And I think, as I say, I think if you walk away with one message, it has to be about self-compassion, because we can then be human in our flaws.
And then I'm imagining that self-compassion is what leads to the third one, right? By recognizing in self-compassion, you're able to separate.
Yeah.
So real fear.
And that's this idea of realizing that fear is an internal narrative. It doesn't have to control us. And if we can separate, that's pretty, then we're in this, we can move into the next stage, which is evaluation. So we can, from a place where we've separated me from fear, now I can turn to fear and kind of go, okay, what there is useful to me? What is actually true? What's based on a story? What's based on the past? What's based on something that isn't actually happening now? How helpful are you being? What would my friend say about this voice? Would I ever speak to anyone else like that? It's questioning and evaluating the fear voice and trying to get that message without the drama. So that's the evaluation stage. And again, from that position, you move to the next stage, which is decision. So now I'm looking at the messages. I may seek guidance from other emotions. As I said, excitement's a really good one to play with around a feared response, because excitement's the same physical feelings, but it's a different interpretation. So you can use the voice of excitement and sit down and have a conversation with excitement about that feared thing and reach a whole different other message. So from the evaluation stage, I can move to the decision. What do I want to do? What do I want to do that helps me move towards my goals, which is to serve others, or to be connected to others, or to shine, or to live a full life, or to connect, or be happy, to find joy. Whatever your goals are, how is this message going to help you decide what to do, so that you decide? And then if you have got a very feared thing, and, let's talk about connection, because it's easy, as you say, it's something that we probably can all massively relate to. If you've got a very feared thing out there that you're worried about, I talk in the book about using something called a graded hierarchy, which is understanding, well, what steps could I practice? Could I deliberately make happen? Can I construct so that inch by inch I'm working towards building a courage muscle for that particular event? And I think that's a really crucial step. Like if you're talking about working with somebody with dog phobia or something, number 10 would be meeting a German Shepherd barking, and numbers, if you're frightened of dogs, you avoid the park and you don't go to people's houses who've got dogs or whatever. That's 0. And you work out the steps, and then you go create that strategy.
Yeah. So it gets you back to that experimentation mode. So, so recognition, self-compassion, the ability to then separation, evaluation, decision, and finally experimentation. And this thing's not going to go away overnight. As you keep saying, we've actually got to embrace fear, because, it's interesting. Someone was asking me once around confidence, and I think someone's put in the chat, Janine, are you an extrovert? No, I'm not. I am so not an extrovert. But I have to I avoid large scale groups as much as I can. I often say no to events. I am so happy sitting in my own little bubble. reading, watching TV with my family, but I've had to work at it. And someone was asking me about this confidence piece, and I actually said to them, I think when you're facing a fear, or when you're feeling like you've got no confidence, that the way I've reframed it is I go, actually, that's my message to me that I'm about to learn something new. So actually, it's, as opposed to it stopping me, I use it as the trigger to go, oh my God, I'm not feeling confident. Oh my God, I'm feeling fear. Oh my God, I'm feeling anxious. Actually, I'm exactly where I need to be, because I'm going to learn something really awesome about myself right now. And I've managed to shift it in that way. I want to go back to Karen's question, Jason, if you can find it, around the media. It's a bit further up. Karen, you had a question around, we're trying to find it. Here we go. Karen was saying, I'm very careful about what I put in front of my eyes and what I listen to. What are your thoughts, Amy, on how the media, and I suppose that could be external stuff, right? Anything externally. And gosh, we've just come out of a year of this, right? And many countries around the world are still we're in massive fear mode. But how is that adding to people's fears?
Oh, enormously. I mean, I'm sure Karen has a huge perspective on this too, because it's so important to remember that we are fear-seeking machines. You know, we are designed to seek for fear. We don't want to be excluded. We don't, from the tribe, whichever tribe it is that we think is important. And it's been essential to our survival, right? So it's absolutely our primary thing as a human. We're walking around seeking fear. Now, some of us have moved into, dealing with that in different ways. And I think it's a really useful thing to think about, what are you allowing in? And what are you allowing just by moving in different spaces for that fear to be fed? And I think, I'd stopped watching the news a long time ago because I just didn't find it helpful. And one of the reasons that I think I came out of doing therapy was because I became quite hyper aware of all the things that could go wrong. Because I was talking to people about it all day, and they just found themselves in bad situations, no fault of their own. So I think if you do take control of your life, that requires you taking control of the spaces that you operate in. And we've been talking about this, Janine, as well, about surrounding yourself with people that you find inspiring, and being able to surround yourself with the people that are going to help you, not the people that are going to wind up your fear voice and make you feel that it's so closely aligned with what you think that you've now got no choice. So I'm assuming that Karen agrees, but I think, be really careful of what you're allowing your eyes and your ears to notice with fear.
Yeah.
Hungry. Fear is very hungry.
I am so aligned with you on that. In It's Who You Know, my book, I actually talk a lot about the shadow archetypes, i.e. the people that we actually should step away from. And, it amazes me how many of us unconsciously keep negative people in our world. If the phone rings and you go, oh, I'll just leave that phone call for a bit. Or the email pops up and you go, oh, you can feel like the vomit appears in your mouth. Or you go, oh, really? I've got to go out to this. And it could be family. Let's be honest.
I know.
Sometimes it could be family. There are family and friends and colleagues, right? But I say to people, it's up to you how you choose to respond to that. I'm not saying you can go and sack everybody from your world that makes you unhappy, because sometimes it's impossible. But the choice that you have in the moment is, how are you going to let them affect your energy? And there is absolutely no way I would be where I'm at now without the people I surround myself with, the people that inspire me, the people that challenge me, the people that push me, the people that care for me. This work that I do around the power of connection and surrounding yourself with the right people, not just randomly networking with a whole heap of people and having superficial conversations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the critical people the high quality people that are going to help you achieve more than you ever thought was possible. So I guess my question for you, we're getting close to wrapping up. So if anyone's got any last minute questions, drop them in. Can you believe we've been talking for an hour with no alcohol? I've got my tea, but anyway. So my question for you, as people are thinking, is, how important has it been for you? Because you've gone from, as you said, therapy to acting to all of your work and your practice to the bravery of putting what you think in a book, not just one book, by the way. There's quite a few books out there. How important has it been to you to surround yourself with key people, with good people?
It's just, when you phrase it like that, it's been essential. Like, I actually don't think I could have done it had I not been around the people that I know promote me to be courageous and allow me to be safe enough to talk about my fears. I absolutely know that this is a game. I feel like I'm in a game of life, and managing myself through that. And I would not be in this strong position without those people around me. I know that. I have, this part of this chasing fear thing that I have is, I will often say that I'm going to do something way ahead of me being ready for it, and then I have to do it. I'm sure you play that same game too.
I do that all the time.
So you kind of get forced into it. And I think if I can tell people that I admire or I respect or I know is there for me, that I'm going to do that thing, I now have an obligation to live that best version of me and not the version of me that wants to pull back. So it's almost like they become an accountability piece to my best self, and yet also allow me to, struggle and get lost and to share. But yeah, I've actually got a very good friend who I know you know as well, Alessandra Edwards, who we do a lot of work together as well. And we actually chase fear together. And that's awesome because we push each other, and we sort of tag team on who's in front in terms of their courage and who's lagging. And we just sort of do that thing. And it's been a wonderful relationship because we've been able to hold each other through this game that we're both playing. And crucial relationships.
Who would have thought you could actually find a way to gamify fear? I love that. Maybe we'll do another hashtag of chasing the fear. Whoever's still online, even if you're listening to this afterwards, if you're brave enough, if you're going to change and control your relationship with fear, which is what Dr. Amy Silver is all about. Hashtag bring it on, hashtag chasing the fear. Share. What are you going to do? What is it? Put it out there. Do the strategy that Amy and I do of tell people you're doing it and then work out how the hell are you going to do it?
And give it to Jason. Give it to Jason. He'll sort it out.
You know what he does? He actually goes, oh God, not another thing. Can you not stop? Dr. Amy, chase fear together. I love that. I'd love to know who that Facebook user is. Can you share your name so I can stop calling you Facebook user? That's just not very good at connecting, is it? Hey, we need to wrap up. I so hope you've enjoyed this very first It's Who You Know chat. I am going to be running these live streams every single month. I am live streaming actually all week, but once a month on a Friday. I am absolutely committed. I'm chasing my fear of bringing some awesome people from my world to the socials so that you can meet. The biggest gift that you can give to my guests is obviously to say thank you. One of the strategies that I share in my work, and it seems really simple, but it's insane how many people don't do it. I say thank you is no longer enough. Thank you is what you say when you get your coffee. Thank you is what you say when you jump out of your Uber. What we've actually got to get more intentional about is saying thank you for. Thank you, Dr. Amy Silver, for. So what I'd love you to do if you're still online, and again, if you're listening to this subsequently, is thank you for. And what are you thankful for, Dr. Amy Silver, for this session? Be intentional about doing that. And I also invite you to connect with Dr. Amy Silver. That's what this is all about. If there's stuff that's resonated, if you're going, I want to know more, if you're going, God, she is a smart woman, I'd love to have another conversation with, absolutely connect. The reality is we cannot be successful alone. And it really is togetherness and connection that will absolutely change our worlds. It will change our communities. It will change our businesses. So Dr. Amy Silver, thank you so much. Any final words for all of these invisible faces around the world that will be watching you?
I would just say thank you, Janine, Garner, for experimenting with your fears and creating this space for all of us to get together this morning. And what an incredible thing you did by moving beyond your fears. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amy. You are an absolute rock star. Keep being brilliant. Thank you for your time this morning and for so willingly allowing me to dig deep, to get you to share stories, and for having a little giggle with me. Thank you to everyone that is watching online. Please message me if you've got any questions. If there's anyone that you think I should get to know, let me know. And yeah, if you're on YouTube, you're loving what you've heard, make sure to subscribe, jump on over to Facebook, come and connect with us. This is what it's all about. Have a great day, everyone, from wherever you're listening in. See you later.